Welcome to This Explainer. I am so thrilled you're joining me today because we are going to dive into a topic that completely flips our conventional understanding of love, empathy, and kindness totally on its head. Today, we're looking at the Bodhisattva's compassion from a distinctly modern perspective, filtering it through the ancient, mind-bending wisdom of the Mahayana Mahaparinirvana Sutra. We're going to analyze some pretty wild, intense cases from the text, specifically how the Buddha tamed terrifying demons and rogue sentient beings. It's a concept that is honestly just as relevant to our modern psychology of boundaries and tough love as it was thousands of years ago. Okay, let's dive into this by asking a very simple question. When you think of compassion or mercy, what immediately comes to mind? A warm hug, a soothing voice, maybe just passive acceptance? We generally assume that true mercy is always gentle, right? We kind of think of it as this soft, comforting blanket. But what if real, ultimate compassion sometimes requires being fierce? What if saving someone from themselves looks entirely different from what we've been conditioned to expect? I mean, listen to this shocking excerpt directly from the sutra. It says that the Buddha, the ultimate figure of peace, right? Quote, transformed into a powerful demon, shaking his palace, terrified, falling to the ground, unconscious like a dead man. Wait, what? The Buddha turning into a terrifying monster and scaring someone so badly they literally pass out? That sets the hook for what we're exploring today, because ultimate empathy in these texts sometimes looks exactly like terrifying magic. It's a highly calculated, shocking intervention. Section 1. The extraordinary face of compassion. In Buddhist philosophy, this unexpected face of empathy is often called skillful means, or upaya. It's this brilliant idea that the method you use to help someone has to be tailored to exactly what they need to wake up in that moment. And this brilliantly illustrates the core difference between our everyday definitions and the philosophy of the sutra. Think about worldly sympathy. It's often passive, it avoids conflict, and it's practically always gentle. But a bodhisattva's compassion, that is highly active. It utilizes those skillful means and is entirely willing to be uncompromising or even harsh in the present moment if it means preventing a massive amount of ultimate suffering down the line. It really is the ultimate form of tough love. Section 2. The Buddha's skillful means. So, how do you actually break through human ignorance when logic and gentle words just aren't cutting it? Well, you use an intervention that shatters their current reality. Take the fascinating story of Suparakata city. The citizens there were tricked by heretics into believing that the Buddha was going to bring famine and curses. Out of sheer, blinding panic, they actually chopped down all their own trees and poisoned their own wells just to keep him away. They literally destroyed their own environment out of fear. So the Buddha arrives to this barren, hostile wasteland. But instead of turning back, he uses his compassion to project an unbelievable illusion. He causes magnificent, magical trees to sprout up and fills the poisoned wells with water as clear and beautiful as lapis lazuli. Witnessing this incredible majesty, the citizens' fear just evaporates, and they open their hearts to his teachings. But here is the iceberg truth beneath that illusion, and it's absolutely vital for understanding this text. The sutra explicitly states that the Buddha didn't actually create physical trees or physical jewel water. He utilized what is called the power of the root of compassion. This wasn't some cheap magic trick. It was the immense mental power of pure compassion completely altering the perception of the citizens. He met their psychological trauma and their fear with a vision so beautiful and overwhelmingly safe that it bypassed all their defenses and guided them straight to peace. Section 3. Taming vicious beasts and demons. Now, what's really interesting here is what happens when the threat isn't just internal fear, but active, immediate violence. Notice the sheer scale of these interventions. In one story, a wicked man named Devadatta unleashes a drunken, murderous elephant to trample people. The Buddha doesn't just ask the elephant nicely to stop. He holds up his hand, and from his 5 fingers, 5 terrifying lions burst forth. The elephant, completely terrified, drops to its knees in submission. In another case, you've got 500 arrogant athletes trying to move a massive boulder. The Buddha walks up, seemingly lifts it into the sky with his big toe, and just blows it into dust, totally shattering their egos. But again, the sutra reveals the secret. There were no actual lions, and he didn't physically lift the rock. These terrifying, awe-inspiring illusions were acts of mercy, designed to instantly stop violence and humble toxic arrogance before these beings could accrue terrible karma. And this brings us right back to our opening quote, the story of the wilderness demon. Let's walk through the pacing of this event because it's a perfect case study. Step 1, you have a demon who is actively eating humans. Reasoning with him, not going to work. So step 2, The Buddha transforms into a ghost so massive and terrifying that it literally shakes the demon's palace. Step 3. The demon, a creature of pure terror himself, is so outmatched in fear that he faints dead away. But look at step 4. This is the underwater motive. Once the demon is neutralized, the Buddha returns to his serene form, gently revives the demon with a touch, and gives him a new, harmless set of rules to live by. He even arranges for his own followers to feed the demon so he won't starve. The surface action was pure terror, but the underlying motive was incredibly gentle salvation. Section 4. Viewing all beings as an only child. So what is the engine actually driving this? Why go to such extreme lengths? Well, it's built on this beautiful, radical concept called the one-child ground. This is the mental state where a bodhisattva views every single sentient being in the universe, from the most virtuous saint to the most vicious murderer or flesh-eating demon, as their beloved only child. Think about the sheer intensity of a parent's love for their only baby. This unconditional, desperate, relentlessly protective love is the foundation of all the bizarre and terrifying illusions we've discussed so far. The sutra actually uses a metaphor here that is incredibly relatable, even today. Quote, "Like a child putting dirt and filth in their mouth, the parents, fearing harm, hold the head with the left hand and pull it out with the right." I mean, if you see a toddler eating glass or poison, you don't politely debate with them, right? You grab their head and you forcefully dig it out of their mouth. To an outside observer or to the crying child, it might look violent or mean, but it is an act of pure, frantic love to save them from illness. In the exact same way, a bodhisattva forcefully intervenes to save beings from the fatal illness of bad karma. Section 5. The wisdom to break obsessions. Now we are about to tackle the most challenging and controversial concept in the text, pushing this philosophy to its absolute edge. So, the crucial point is, can taking a life ever be an act of ultimate mercy? I want you to sit with that heavy question for a second. We've talked about illusions, scaring demons, and digging dirt out of a child's mouth. But what about the ultimate boundary? Prepare yourselves for the Buddha's ultimate paradox. To really understand this, we have to look at the sutra's complex theological data on karmic weight. In this framework, killing carries immense karmic punishment. Killing an animal is a lower karmic offense, resulting in rebirth in a hell or ghost realm. Killing an ordinary human is a middle offense with a similar but much longer punishment. Killing a parent or an enlightened being is an upper offense, dropping the perpetrator straight into the deepest, endless Avicii hell. But then, there is one paradoxical exception, the Aichantika. In this text, an Aichantika is someone utterly devoid of good roots, someone actively slandering the truth and destroying the spiritual lives of countless others. According to the text, stopping them does not carry the same karmic sin. And then, the sutra reveals this staggering story, the ultimate rescue. It states that in a past life, long before his final enlightenment, the Buddha actually took the lives of violent slanderers. But here is the crucial, mind-bending logic. Just like a surgeon cutting away a gangrenous limb, this extreme act was entirely devoid of malice. He saw that these individuals were about to commit acts that would trap them in eternal hell. So by taking their lives, he forcefully stopped their karmic freefall. Because of his compassionate intervention, instead of eternal hell, these lost beings were reborn in a serene, pure land for 10 kalpas, giving them a chance to heal and awaken. It was a desperate, highly calculated intervention to ensure they wouldn't suffer eternally. Which brings us to the end of our explainer. And I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. If compassion is truly meant to eradicate ultimate suffering, if it's not just about making people feel comfortable right now, but about saving them from profound long-term harm, are you ready to accept its awe-inspiring and sometimes terrifying appearances? This ancient text challenges absolutely everything we think we know about kindness. It asks us to look way past the surface of an action and deeply examine the roots of love and boundaries. Thank you so much for exploring this profound paradox with me today. Keep asking the big questions, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.